He called her his angel, his queen, his blessing from God. In their honeymoon videos, you can hear him laughing, teasing her, holding the camera like a proud husband showing off his beautiful new wife. If you watched only those moments, you'd swear you were looking at a couple who would grow old together. But what if I told you that the man in those videos, the man smiling, praising, worshiping his wife, would walk into her classroom less than 3 months later and fire bullets into her body while terrified children watched? A husband, a teacher, a classroom full of special needs students. From "I love you" to "I'll make sure you never leave me again." Before we step into that classroom and relive the seconds that changed everything, we need to rewind and see how a so-called love story became a countdown to murder. Because the red flags? They were there, they were bright, and they were ignored. To understand this crime, you have to meet her first. She wasn't famous. She wasn't chasing followers. She wasn't interested in attention. She was a teacher, but not just any teacher. She worked with children who needed more than most. More patience, more understanding, more time. Special needs students. Kids who struggled with things other children take for granted. And every day, she showed up for them. Soft-spoken, gentle, consistent. If you looked up "good person" in a dictionary, her students' parents would have expected to see her picture. She was the calm voice, the safe hands, the person you trusted to protect the most vulnerable children. Then, there was him. To outsiders, he seemed like a blessing. Charming, confident, the kind of man who loved to talk about how grateful he was. On social media, he played his role perfectly. He posted couple photos, wrote emotional captions, called her his angel, his everything, the love of his life. Their wedding, after years of knowing each other, looked like a dream come true. Smiles, vows, family crying happy tears. People looked at them and thought, finally, she got the happy ending she deserved. Nobody knew they were actually watching the opening scene of a true crime case. Their honeymoon looked harmless, perfect, even. He records her walking up a trail, laughing as she leads the way. He says things like, "We're having such a good time," with that proud, satisfied tone of a man who thinks he won at life. She smiles, not a forced smile, but the real kind. The kind that only happens when someone genuinely believes they just stepped into a safe future. The videos show sunlight, nature, inside jokes, plans for the future. No yelling, no tears, no visible cracks. But that's the problem with recordings. They're controlled. You only see what someone wants you to see. The camera turns off, and the rest of the story happens in silence. Because even while they were filming perfect love life content, something inside him was already starting to twist. And once it twisted, there was no turning back. The change didn't take years. It didn't even take months. Within weeks of the wedding, the man who once praised her started to pick her apart. It starts small. It almost always does. Extra questions. Little digs. Who were you talking to? Why didn't you answer? Why are you late? But these weren't loving questions. These were accusations dressed up as concern. The tone changed. The look in his eyes changed. The way he spoke to her changed. Those questions turned into arguments. Those arguments turned into explosions. He accused her of cheating, even though there was no evidence. He accused her of hiding things, even though she had nothing to hide. One day he's calling her his angel. The next, he's accusing that same angel of being a liar. Her family noticed the shift. They saw the way her shoulders drooped when she talked about him. They heard just enough to realize this wasn't a normal newlywed adjustment. This wasn't "we're still getting used to each other." This was something darker. She thought she married a good man. One relative would later say. She found out the truth too late, and yet she still didn't tell the world. Why? Because she was intensely private. She didn't like broadcasting her problems, didn't want to burden her family, didn't want to risk her professional image, Didn't want church friends whispering about her marriage failing after just a few weeks. So she did what a lot of kind, strong people do. She swallowed it. She minimized it. She told herself she could handle it. But in a relationship with someone like him, silence isn't protection. Silence is fuel. About 6 weeks in, she hit her limit. Enough yelling. Enough accusations. Enough walking on eggshells. She packed her things and left the home they shared. No dramatic screaming match in the street. No plates thrown. No police at the door. Just a quiet, determined escape. She moved in with family, splitting her time between different relatives' houses, trying to create some distance, some safety. Most people think leaving the relationship is the end of the danger. But if you know anything about controlling partners, you know the truth. Leaving is often the most dangerous moment. And he proved it. Instead of accepting the separation, he escalated. He drove past houses where he knew she might be. He watched. He circled. He lingered. He started bombarding her phone. Texts. More texts. Even more texts. Some messages sounded desperate. I love you. I need you. I can change. Others held concealed threats. Lines meant to intimidate her. To remind her that he was watching. That he was still in the picture. On one day alone, the day before everything exploded, he sent her dozens of messages that went unanswered. To acquaintances, he painted himself as a frustrated husband. He complained about his wife leaving, about feeling disrespected, about being done wrong. One person remembered him making choking gestures while talking about her. Gestures that, in hindsight, looked like a preview of what he wanted to do. But at the time, no one took it as the lethal warning it was. And while all this was happening in private, what did he show to the public? More posts. More I love my wife. More curated happiness. Online, he was still the devoted, adoring husband. In reality, he was rehearsing something far darker. The night before the attack wasn't just tense. It was pivotal. The ratio of messages. The intensity behind them. The way his words bounced between, I love you, and you'll regret this. He was losing what little grip he had left on reality. But this time, she held her boundary. No more replying. No more giving him a reaction. No more explaining herself to someone who didn't actually want the truth. She chose silence. For most people, silence is peace. For someone like him, silence is an insult, and insults demand revenge. By the time the sun rose the next morning, this wasn't a man in confusion. He wasn't snapping in the moment. He had made his decision, and he was walking toward it. The morning of April 10th started like any other Monday at an elementary school. Kids were dropped off. Backpacks bounced. Announcements played. Lessons started. In her classroom, 15 special needs students settled into their routines. These were children who already faced challenges, processing, communication, emotional regulation. For them, her classroom was a safe place. She was their anchor, the calm voice, the patient presence, the adult who never gave up on them. The school wasn't careless. They had security protocols in place. Locked doors, visitor sign-in procedures, heightened awareness after previous violence in their city. But safety systems have a blind spot. They're built to stop strangers, not husbands. He arrived at the school mid-morning. He went to the front office. He presented himself calmly. He gave his name. He said he was there to drop something off for his wife. And this is the detail that makes the whole story even more infuriating. Staff recognized him. He wasn't a masked intruder. He wasn't a random man off the street. He was Mrs. husband. So they did what anyone would do in that moment. They let him in. They thought they were being courteous to a teacher's spouse. They were actually opening the door to a planned killing. He walked down the hallway, past children's artwork and projects, past doors where kids were learning spelling, math, reading. Inside her classroom, the world was calm. 15 children with special needs focused on their work, Two aides moved around the room, offering help. She stood at the front, doing what she always did, teaching with patience. Then the door opened. He stepped in. In that moment, everything could have gone differently. He could have asked to talk. He could have asked her to step outside. He could have turned around and walked away. He did none of that. He didn't speak. He didn't argue. He pulled out a large caliber revolver, raised it, and opened fire on his wife. Multiple shots, multiple impacts. The sound shattered the room. Two children standing behind her were shot as well. Kids who had nothing to do with his anger, his insecurity, his obsession. They were simply standing where children are supposed to stand, close to the teacher they trusted. Screams broke out. Chaos exploded. Some kids tried to run. Others froze in place. The aides did everything they could to move students out, to protect tiny bodies from more bullets. And then, after making sure the woman he claimed to love would never move again, he turned the gun on himself and ended his own life right there. No escape attempt. No surrender. No acceptance of responsibility. Just the final act of a coward who wanted complete control, even over how the story ended. At 10:27 a.m., the first 911 calls came in. Shots fired at the school. Teacher down. Kids may be hit. Police raced to the scene. Their response time was fast, around 7 minutes. They moved in, secured the building, started evacuations, did exactly what they were trained to do. But for the parents outside that school, time moved differently. Many of them didn't get an official alert right away. They heard rumors from text messages, from friends, from social media posts, saying, "Shooter at the school." Imagine reading that and knowing your child is in that building. They dropped everything and rushed over. Some arrived still in work uniforms. Some came wearing house slippers. Some barely remembered how they drove there. When they reached the campus, they were told to wait. Wait over here. Now wait over there. We're moving you to another location. Your children are being transported. But the one question they needed answered stayed unanswered. Is my child alive? Every group of children escorted out was a wave of agony. Parents scanned every little face. Is that my kid? Why haven't I seen them yet? Are they hurt? Are they hiding? Are they gone? Hours felt like years. Reunification finally started. Some parents sobbed in relief, clutching their children like they'd never let go again. Others weren't called forward at all. For them, the silence said everything. The two wounded children were rushed to hospitals immediately. One boy, 9 years old, had serious internal injuries, a broken rib, damage to organs, but doctors believed he could make it. The other child, just 8 years old, had an existing genetic condition that already made his life more complicated. He had been standing right behind his teacher. The bullets had torn through multiple organs. He was airlifted to a regional trauma center. Surgeons worked on him as fast and as skillfully as human hands allow. His family sat in hallways, waiting for news no parent should ever have to wait for. Hours passed. Machines beeped. Doctors rushed in and out. And then, the next day, the battle ended. He died from his injuries. A little boy who went to school that morning with a backpack and a future had become the third victim of one man's rage. A teacher gone. A child gone. A classroom full of survivors left with memories no therapy can fully erase. In the days that followed, the entire community felt it. News anchors repeated the story on every channel. The words husband, teacher, and classroom kept colliding in headlines that felt unreal. Officials praised police for their fast response. They offered counseling for students, for staff, for traumatized parents. Pastors prayed with families. Neighbors left flowers and candles outside the school. People who never met the victims felt the weight of their loss,